a very warm welcome to two faces you've seen before, but they are here with this new format. Welcome, Roopa, and welcome, Manoj.
Thank you.
What we are trying to do here is pick up a topic and see many points of view if we can, starting with the three of us, and let us see where this goes. We've been very unsure about what the topic should be, so we decided we go with the word unsure and start. Uh, I have a very interesting relation with the word unsure. So, in the practice of meditation that I do, uh, one of the greats in the Thai forest tradition, Ajahn Chah, uh, who's no longer alive, but supposed to be an enlightened person. He had this famous thing that whatever you are, wherever you reached, always be unsure. And I found it very interesting once I kind of adopted the thought consciously. Uh, how do you see it, Rupa? I have a lot of thoughts running simultaneously, so might as well ask you, how do you see being unsure? What are your initial thoughts on this subject?
Yeah, generally being unsure is looked down upon, and it's you're all confused and you're lost and that sort of feeling. But the equally valid or positive way of reframing would be that confusion is the place from where clarity would eventually be taking its birth. So it is the place where all possibilities are a potential, and you are more likely to pick one and try things out much more openly than if you were unsure. So if you were sure, you would get complacent and rigid in your ways, and if you're unsure, you're more open and more receiving to possibilities, I would say.
Manoj, I have a dynamite of a question here. Possibilities sounds very intimidating because once you have too many possibilities, the chances of being clear seem lesser to me. On the surface of it, how do you see it?
Life
Manoj,
is full of possibilities.
one sec. I would want Manoj to answer this and then I'll come back to you. Sorry.
Yeah, you sound like J. Krishnamurti in this question, because he says that, to try, I mean, his philosophy, he didn't really have a philosophy as such, but, to sum it up, was choiceless awareness.
Oh,
So, when you don't have a choice, you're very clear about what needs to be done and you do it.
okay.
And when you have too many choices, then there is where confusion begins.
Yeah.
So this and his idea, to try and put it as succinctly as possible, is that when you people say choice is freedom, he says choice is bondage, because you have no choice. Then the path is very clear.
Okay.
You know what is to be done. That's it, and that's freedom, because you don't have to make a decision. So that's that's a perspective, you see. So
yeah. So, Rupa, how do you bring in unsure into this lovely contemplation that Manoj brought to the table right now? It is true, but I could see the seed of unsure part in the sense of that you may not know what is the repercussion of what path you're going to take, but you're clear that that is the one to be taken. How do you deal with that unsure feeling?
For me, as I see life, it's all about experiences and learning from your experiences. So for me, unsure is a good place to be, in the sense, as much as there is the burden of decision making and the consequences of your decision making, is equally a very valid process to evolve and learn about life first-hand basis. So for me, being stuck in one way would be more difficult to deal with and feel more boxed in, rather than having the choices. I can choose to choose the same path which somebody else has chosen, but I could also choose something very different. But it has to resonate with me. It shouldn't be prescribed to me, but it has to be chosen by me. Is what I would say to be more fulfilling.
So may I?
I would want you to respond.
Yeah,
That's what.
the thing is, I don't see these two things as opposed to each other, in the
Okay.
sense that not having a choice doesn't make it doesn't mean you're certain about something. You still wouldn't know how things may turn out, but you have no choice in the matter, in the sense that you're taking a step forward, going ahead, and then letting things unfold. You're not sure of how things are going to work out, but you're not stuck in
No.
a place where you need to make a decision about, oh, whether I should go here or there, and now I don't know whether this side will turn out to be good or that side will turn. So there you are not really free.
Yeah.
But when you make a decision and you move ahead, there's no question of choice. You're just going ahead and then letting it unfold. Incidentally, since we're recording this on a day when the biggest news of Ratan Tata, there was a quote attributed to him.
Hmm?
Not really something he's disputed that. So he said, "I've not said that," but the quote is nice. He said, "No, it can be perceived as arrogant, or it can be perceived as very wise." He said, "I don't make the right decisions. I make a decision and then make it right."
Good one. Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
So,
so please.
from that point, in the sense that, yeah, I mean, you could look at it this way, or you could say, all right, it's not about making it right. It's about, obviously, you're going to try and make it right because you've made the decision, but you don't really know whether it will end up being right. So it's okay. And even again, right is,
Subjective.
is very subjective. Yeah.
I would.
Yeah,
I
rightly
have a
said.
point of view there. I think it's not about arrogance in that sense that this quote is supposed to mean, because somebody else that I know also spoke of this.
Hmm.
What it means is that you take the responsibility for the decision you've taken, and you stand there, and so there is an interesting contradiction there that Roopa, if you would want to think on. On one hand, while taking the decision, you have certain information that, or a gut feel that this might be the path that is right for you. Even if we were to go to Manoj's example of saying whether you want to go this way or that way. So you make a calculated guess. Okay, this way if I go, I get this, this, this. This way if I go, I get this, this, this. So I prefer this. Now, once you've taken the step, obviously life is never as predicted in our own minds and whatever future we tend to see. So what comes up then, a lot of people start seeing and regretting or going back and trying to think, what if I had taken the other way? There's a lot of energy lost in that process. Has that ever happened to you? I remember even the introduction I was giving about you to Manoj, that you were doing a lot of degrees at a time, following up on your hunches about this course might work for me. Uh, was it really a sense of trying to find out what worked for you? Was it just seeking knowledge for its own sake? Uh, or were you pushed into doing something because you were restless? What is it? Or was it a combination of all these things? Would you want to throw some light on why so much study? Why so much going out to seek knowledge that perhaps you might find within? I'm not saying for sure. Uh, do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, actually, honestly speaking, it's a bit of everything. It's not one or the other. It is a bit of everything. I was restless for knowledge. I wanted to try first-hand things. Some decisions I did take, which didn't entirely come to fruition as I would have wanted it to. But just because it didn't come to fruition doesn't mean I didn't gain from it. I still had my knowledge and I still enjoyed the journey to the possible destination, which
Okay.
didn't quite pan out the way I wanted it to. But there was no regret. I personally didn't feel any regret purely because I enjoyed the journey. I think that's what it would come down to. It's a choice that you have made for yourself. You did the best you could, and sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. Because it doesn't work out the way you expected it, it's more dashing of your expectations, which seem harsher than the actual reality.
Can you tell us an example about that?
So, for example, I had done the neuroscience and the MSc psychology to become a clinical psychologist. But here, the way the education system works, it's a very competitive course where 1 in 25 get picked up for the interview, and it's they pick about, to put it in short, is about 30 people from 5,000 candidates.
Oh,
So it's a real tough filtering criteria. But I did give it a fair go and I enjoyed the process. I loved my courses when I did them. The knowledge still serves me. I have the knowledge with me for the rest of my life. But I didn't eventually become a clinical psychologist like the way I wanted it to. So that's one example where it didn't work out, but no regrets. I think looking back, it was good it didn't work out. I wouldn't have been able to do all the other things I did because that didn't work out. So it's your perception of it.
okay. Good that you brought up this example. One of the things that the world looks down upon you in the immediate is that, oh, you chose this and you failed at this.
Oh yeah, yeah. People have
We
this thing.
ourselves do this very often.
Yeah.
Manoj, you have any examples where you tried some stuff and you found that being unsure was not as bad, even while you were at it and you were failing at it? Did anything like that happen to you at any point?
Yeah, I guess the whole life is a series of decisions, which I made. I mean, I just took like a certain path and then I wasn't sure it'll work out. And then certain things worked out, certain things didn't. Uh, I switched my career path uh, quite late. I was 28 when I decided to try my hand at writing. And I had trained, as a marketing professional. So I had an MBA and I had a lot of experience with top media companies working in, the marketing side of the business. And then at the age of 28, I decided to switch and I tried to pursue writing. And then a series of coincidences, there are no such thing as they say, but, just for sake of keeping this logical, a series of coincidences happened and I ended up being in this field of writing and editing. And now that worked out for me. And I wasn't sure whether it will, and it worked out for me. So I can think of the positive side, but there were other, lots of small detours that I was trying to take, and those things didn't really work out very well. I can't think of a specific example as of now. But when I look back, I always think that, there is this mind part of me which keeps, reminiscing about those
Missed chances.
yeah, not exactly. I mean, they were not even missed chances. I took those, it didn't work out. So, you kind of have a second thought about it, saying, what if I wouldn't have done that? But then there's also a sort of a higher level awareness about the fact that this is so stupid. Why am I even thinking about it? In the sense that there's no point really thinking about all of that right now, because this is where I am, and all my real power lies in the present moment from where I begin. So there's this constant thing that happens, and the mind kind of goes in that direction. And then at some point, this, witness consciousness kind of comes in, puts a stop to it until the next time. And, this begins again, and we start looking back again and again, go into that, thought process. So
This is very nice because you took the answer to the question that was forming in my head. Roopa, there is this whole sense of not getting to belong to a certain sense of identity that we have, which is often seen as a spiritual crisis in all our lives at some point of time, but more so in the seeking journey. Very often, while you're still doing that course or learning that meditation or learning that trick or whatever is your chosen path, you have not gained the insights yet. You have not gained the confidence to take those steps yet. You are practicing, but it looks like two parallel lives being led. Internally, you're trying to figure out what does life, he used a term that then there is this higher awareness. Well, there is no higher awareness in the sense later part when you realize that to come to the present moment requires as much grounding as possible that one can have, and sometimes we are not even strong enough to reach there. But what he means is the sense of this whole thing. And I find that even in my journey, very often I have found that. Uh, so one example, I have a teenage kid, and yesterday I kind of was quite angry, and I landed up saying something and blah blah whatever happened. Uh, she's trained me very well in the sense when she was younger, she's actually landed up saying that what I like most about you is you don't hold on to the angst. After a little while, 1 hour, 2 hours have passed, you don't bring it up again. Or even if you bring it up, it's very mild and normal, and you're trying to have a conversation rather than put your foot down and say, this is it. That's what I've liked about you, she's told me earlier. And I didn't do it consciously, honestly. So then I picked it up once I realized, oh, this is a good trait to have. And even if I've been doing it subconsciously, I need to adopt it and work my way into it. So yesterday we had this, and then later we were talking, and she also mentioned one other piece of wisdom that I thought was amazing. Supposedly coming from me, but I don't remember at all. So she landed up saying that other thing you've told me, the choice is always ours. How long do you want to hold on to the grouse? So every now and then she's managed to let go of the grouse because of this one piece of advice I must have given at some point. Okay, it is your choice. It is, you can feel cheesed off about something and take 3 days to come out of it. Nobody is stopping you. He said, I realized that is true because finally I am angry or I am unhappy or I am grieving about something. But at that point, it is my choice. How long do I want to stay in this state? The moment I decide, then it kind of, this is what I'm making up. The rest of it is okay, perhaps it dissolves. So, but the unsure part remains like even yesterday when she said, and we were talking about letting go, and she said one has to let go. No? I said it, unless you have a practice, you will never let go fully. She said, and yet you still have to let go. So my question to you, Rupa, is how does one let go of one's disappointment at not receiving what one thought is one's due in whatever way? You have invested your time, and especially in the seeking, quote unquote, the word keeps coming in my head is business. But in the seeking thing that we do, very often you think, oh, I am putting in effort. Uh, just a few hours back, I was watching Ajahn Sumedho's talk, and he keeps saying that you take so much effort and you strain yourself that you have not achieved A or B or C, that you have completely lost the plot of what you had set out to do. So how do you see it? And has it happened to you at some point when you've been worked up? And I remember much earlier in our early days as friends, there were days when you were very worked up about stuff. Obviously, we weren't great friends there. We didn't talk about the issues, but you had a lot of anger about either people or the world or the processes or what was happening in your side of the world or in India at that point. What was that, and how did you finally make your peace with it? Have you made your peace with it to start?
Um, I don't quite remember the stuff
Yeah,
that you're
yeah.
talking about. I don't remember.
I'm talking of the moods generally. It doesn't matter what the
Yeah.
matter
So I
was.
don't remember that particular thing, but yeah, it's been a journey. It's been a journey of being more self-aware of how things are impacting me, how I'm responding to it, and what am I doing with it. Am I letting go or holding on and banking it on further? It's a process of self-awareness that comes with conscious effort over a period in time. In my case, that's what I figured. um, like you rightly say, it is my choice to do whatever I want with it.
Yeah.
Disappointments, upsets, I could sit and brood about it for 3 days, 3 years, 30 years. There is no end the sort of expiry date to it. I can brood with it as long as I want to, or I could just let go of it in 30 seconds too. And that I could come around to doing it by reframing it,
Okay.
by just giving, like we just were talking some time ago about being unsure, and whether it is just being lost and confused, or it is just opening up possibilities to other potential choices that you can.
Venues.
So it is the same scenario which you have reframed it to suit you. So similarly, all of this has been a process of, yeah, I was disappointed when I didn't get through in my course and wanted to do the stuff that I had planned to do. So it was more the dashing of my expectations, my being upset because of my own expectation. They were mine to work with to begin with, and they were mine to let go as well. So it was that awareness that it is ultimately mine throughout. It's my ideas, my expectations, my choice, all of it. So what I do is entirely my responsibility at the end of the day, what I do with it. So I can choose to be more gracious and be grateful to what has happened, and hope and pray that it is going to lead me to a better path, which I am unaware of right now, and look at it more positively rather than sit and brood about it, was the awareness that I came to over a period in time.
Manoj, does this, I'm using a very harsh term here, but does one feel like a loser at that point of time that you haven't managed to? Because we are so us, I approach everything from my centric worldview. I will go here, I will do this, I will win over this client. I whatever copy I write is going to be loved by all of them, or ABC, whatever it is. Uh, and when those hopes are dashed and things don't fall in place, and sometimes you may be right as well. I'm not even denying the fact that we may have taken the right decision, we may have delivered on the goods, and yet uh, we aren't successful the way we expected. uh, isn't it pacifying ourselves in the way, just to put a contrarian view and provoke this discussion a little deeper, isn't it trying to see the sunnier side of things, because anyway you didn't succeed? How would you see this point of view? Because a lot of people do think like that.
So a couple of things here. Before I get to this, just let me quickly tell you something about this thing occurred to me. This thought occurred to me when you were narrating this incident with your daughter and how she reminded you of the wisdom that you have imparted to her. We always have a choice. So there's this example that I read in the book called The Courage to be Disliked, where, and it's quite a popular book in the field of psychology now. It's a recent book, I think maybe 6-8 years ago it was released, and by two Japanese authors. And the idea being that so I'm not going to go into the details because that'll take a lot of time. The example that he gives is that imagine you're talking imagine you're having a heated conversation with somebody and you are angry. Okay, you're angry with your wife or your daughter, your partner, whoever. And while in that anger, you feel that you have no choice because of whatever reason. You feel, wronged, or you feel kind of righteous about your anger. So you're angry. And right then you get a phone call from an authority figure, somebody who's really important, your boss or somebody, who's really. And when you answer and you go, hello, and the moment you hear the other way, oh, yeah, how are you? Hello, yes, yes. Immediately your anger is gone. What happened? You have a choice. You did have a choice. You always had a choice. So this is something that I think from that point of view, we are always kind of making, we are trying to sort of play that role. We are always in some sort of a role. We are in a role of an employee with the boss, but we are in a role of a partner for our spouses. We are in a role of a parent for our children. So we're always trying to play roles. And can you kind of step back and say, all right, I'm playing this role. And what if I was not playing this role? How would then, like, if I was just a bystander, how would I look at this interaction that's happening right now? And that's an interesting it brings a good perspective.
Yes.
And coming back to whether you feel like, you're the one who gives meanings to events in your life. Things work out, you say, all right, I was smart enough to make the decision, and you pat yourself. Or maybe you say, oh, I could have done even better than whatever. Or you things don't work out and you pacify yourself and, okay, I made a decision. Or things don't work out and you're like, really upset about it and say, what nonsense, how stupid of me. Or you start blaming somebody else for your failure. Then basically we are meaning making machines. We just give meanings to whatever events, like. And can you be aware of the fact that you are always trying to give some sort of meaning? And if you uh, so enlightenment is what, really? I mean, when you use the word enlightenment, and for me, I don't think that to me, I don't believe that there are enlightened beings, but I do think that we have enlightened moments. And so people who are enlightened have, for some reason, have been able to manage to be in that space a lot longer than most of us. And what exactly are they doing? They're just staying in uninterpreted sort of moments. That's all that it is. They're not giving meanings to things that are happening. So whatever is happening, they don't give a meaning to it, neither good nor bad. So at a superficial level, they may call it good or bad. But at a deeper level, they know that this devoid of meaning is just a happening. And so, uh, you know, when you're younger, it's a little difficult to do that. But as kind of you grow a little, you begin to see that lots of things that actually didn't work out for you were probably blessings in disguise. Because, oh, if this would have worked out, then these things wouldn't have happened that have happened now. So your perspective changes. When the things happen, you don't really know how things will actually unfold in the future because of this thing that you today label as
Good or
negative,
bad.
as undesirable, as a failure. But you don't really know whether it's a failure. And what is failure in any case? Isn't it just a label that we have, created to define something that, is an outcome that is different than what you wanted? That's all. That's all that it is.
Okay. So the only sure thing we can be sure of is being unsure, because that is the uncertainty that is underlying every moment. Because context keeps changing every moment. And what I find, in fact, one of the reasons my opinions comparatively came down, they haven't gone away completely, obviously. But I realized that I cannot trust myself. In the morning, what I'm very sure of, by the afternoon, I'm unsure. By the evening, I'm sure of the exact opposite position about that. And
Absolutely.
that is what humbled me a lot more than other people saying that I was right or wrong, because I said, सुबह तो बहुत कॉकी था कि अरे यही है रास्ता, है इधर से ही जाना है, इधर से ही जाना है, फिर मालूम पड़ा कि अरे यार यहाँ तो ट्रैफिक होता है, तो आई नीड टू एक्चुअली हैव टेकन द अदर वन. So I again some wisdom from my kid. So suppose a mug of tea is dropped through her hands. Her first thing, even as a kid, was uh, that I get the firing of my life because I have been careless about handling something that I should have been careful of. When the same thing happens to you, none of you reprimand yourself at all. So why is it that the rule is different for me and the rule is different for you? And why can't you reprimand yourself? I said, because we like ourselves. So she used to laugh at this. Obviously, I have also trained her. So, okay, there's an interesting question coming up, Roopa. So while you are changing, the world is the same. The world is what the world is. I'm not even saying it is lesser or more, but you start thinking it is lesser because you are now evolving. So now I am more forgiving. Uh, So I remember there was this guy called Ramzu, Wayne Liquorman, who went under the pen name of Ramzu, and he had written a funny book of poems called No Way for the Spiritually Advanced.
Okay.
And he had this poem that for all your efforts, I think there are two lines that I remember from it. For all your efforts, all you can show is an improved self.
Okay.
And I used to love it because it hurts. It hurts also, and it while you're wincing, you're also laughing because it's so true. Okay, every now and then I make an effort. So on the podcast, I am saying all these wise things, and I am in place, and oh wow. And then the podcast is over, and something happens that is not to my liking, or and I've immediately lost it. I loved what he said. Can I distance myself immediately or in the moment? Because I've been hearing these talks, and that guy has been talking about what is Dhamma, and it's very difficult to describe. And he's come to the closest word is actually consciousness. And since the day I have heard it, I have been actually thinking, what is consciousness then? What is it that we are? Who is watching? What is watching, or what is happening? Uh, if I'm getting the right words, and if I can dissect, okay, I know the language and I understand the words, and all of us are friends, and all the superficial categories of why we are able to communicate with each other. And once I have sliced away all of that, then what is making this arise? There will be certain things, okay, I've read the language and I've read books and I know how to frame a sentence. And but very often I have found that you don't even have to say anything. We've already, in fact, if I remember correctly, sometime back, Roopa, on a call, we were saying, um, we have already decided what we want to do with each other on this chat. And then we are playing out those roles because oh, we are supposed to be these seekers of very sensible people. And uh, partially the reason why I throw these provocative lines is because I would rather be the voice of people who are asking me this, how does this happen? I may know the answer sometimes, but it is my answer. And in the present moment, that's the answer. So, how do you reconcile the two things where you know you are growing, but the world is the world, and they say, stop acting like you are the wiser one, just stay quiet or whatever. Because our parents, our family, our brothers, sisters, friends, closest friends, colleagues, they see you the same, wearing the same clothes you're coming in. There is no stamp saying, okay, okay, now new enlightened version 2.0. So that doesn't happen. So Rupa, how do you reconcile? Is there a need to reconcile, or what are the thoughts, what are the emotions that one goes through when this initial part of the journey happens? I know we have all crossed this path at some point. Right now, we may think different things, but initially, what happens when you start thinking this, or even now, some new insight has happened, and you call up somebody and you're saying, and that person, yeah, but so what's the big deal? And you know it's a big deal for you. How do you uh, reconcile this childish glee at understanding nature, God, whatever you want to call that path, seeking itself?
Yeah, that's a good one. It's, yeah, as much as I would love to pick up the phone and call, there are not too many people I can call and
Can
share
you
this
can you
with.
speak up a little louder?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, as much as I said, I would love to pick up the phone and call somebody and share it. There are not too many people, like you say, who will relate to it or see the charm in it. Yes, so it's sort of a no-brainer that, yeah, over a period in time, we get used to not doing that. But I guess equally important part of the practice and of your evolution is the idea of compassion. So as much as we evolve, and we are evolving or making choices for ourselves, not because the world is
Yeah,
expecting, or the spiritual path is expecting me to do, that's not going to sustain.
that's not
So
good.
you are making the choice because that's what you choose to be for yourself. That is the version you choose or pick for yourself. So considering that you're doing it for yourself, equally important element that goes with that practice is the compassion to people, everybody who's different to you, who may not understand you, who might think totally opposite to what you have to say and think, which is fine. You need all sorts to make up the world. So it's that idea of embracing the contra, which further feeds into your evolution. You become more, the compassion gives you more love for the other as well, irrespective of what, where they come from or what they have to say. You cannot put opinions, because that would then be your opinion, and that's all there is to it. It's just your opinion. So why is that any greater or lesser than the others? And the idea of compassion encompasses everything, literally. There is nothing that is separate from you or not a part of you. We are all facets of the same thing. So once that inclusive mentality comes in, then it doesn't matter. It
Yes.
doesn't matter who approves or who doesn't, who understands or who doesn't.
Yeah, Manoj, you want to say something on that?
No, I second that.
Okay, so I
Because
have
the
a
thing is that, we bring in a separation between us and the world. And the point is that you come to a stage where you realize you are the world. There is no world separate from you. The evolution is happening. It's happening in the world, and it's probably happening. Like, if you kind of think that you're evolving, I think that's pretentious, because you just kind of it's just that you're able to see things in a certain way. That's it. I mean, there's no higher, lower. It's just the way things, your perspective broadens, and you're able to, like she said, become more inclusive. And the moment you become more inclusive, you stop looking at down or up at anybody. It's in the sense that everybody is just another me, another version of me. I mean, in the sense that we're all having these experiences. And when we're younger, we have this, this whole thing of idolizing people, having role models and all of that. And then when you come to a stage where you realize, that some of those role models are, they did things that shocked you, surprised you, disappointed you, let you down. And then you come to a stage where you start looking at them as humans too. So you kind of angry at them, and then you again come to a stage where you are accepting them again the way, just for their all their humanness. They were human. So what attracted me to that individual, for whatever reason, is still valid. It's just that I begin to look at that person as human, and now I'm able to accept him and still admire what I used to admire at some point in time. So you're able to sort of be really inclusive. And that's probably what she meant when she used the word compassion. Because compassion is really about that, about recognizing that I am frail, as frail as a human can be. And so is everybody else. But we are little less, we are very demanding of the people we hold in, high regard. We when we're younger, maybe we have role models of like film stars and successful people, sports stars or whatever. And then when we grow older, we have like slightly, if you kind of walking this path where you're trying to become self-aware and all of that, then you are like, you have spiritual leaders, let's say, but we are very demanding on them. We say, oh, they need to be this way. And if they're not, then there's something wrong. So either this extreme or that extreme. It's like either they are absolutely perfect. We don't allow for any kind of imperfections in those people. If they're not perfect, then they're absolutely useless, worthless. We can't just look at them anymore. So we live in that sort of dichotomous worldview. And when we sort of emerge out of that and we see, oh, there is no such thing. There is no black and white. Everything is a shade of gray. And of course, all other colors.
Yeah, just to add one tiny point on that, one of the finest examples I personally like is how it's a tapestry of life, and all of us are one thread in that tapestry. And you need all the variety of colors and possibilities to make the tapestry rich and vibrant. So some are red, some are green, some are in between, all sorts.
Does this wisdom escape us when we are in the throes of one person being either important or absolutely not important to us? Is it what I want to understand is if there is a benchmark of whether one is really progressing on the journey, what would be the one benchmark? Both of you can answer separately on this. What would be the benchmark, or what would be that thing that one is really seeing that, okay, we are progressing? Progress being a relative word, obviously. We may actually go back and change view that was wrong, that itself is progress, perhaps. But
For me, it's very clear. You become calmer, quieter. You don't you you don't take your own opinions and thoughts, um, seriously. In the sense, you realize that this is just an opinion, and you begin to see that more and more. And when you do that, then you realize that okay, the drama is playing out. We're going through the motions of being human, of being emotional, with respect to whatever happens. And there's this momentum, which is there. We're carrying that. So we're still in that momentum. So there are certain things that will happen. But then we are also building another parallel momentum of being aware of all of that. And once that awareness expands, then you don't take any of your own thoughts and therefore other people's thoughts seriously. In the sense, you look at them and say, all right, this is a flux, it's happening. People, the world is in the flux at all times. And that is how it is. And we are all here to sort of, I mean, again, I don't want to give it a meaning, but we kind of tend to look at things in certain ways. So we say, all right, we are here to experience all, different dimensions of life and all of that. But again, I mean, that this is also a thought. You're trying to kind of constantly be aware of that thing and say, all right, silence, the more silence happens, the quieter you are, the more you don't need to be right.
Yeah.
I think that is probably, I would say, again, I'm unsure.
Yeah.
It might be, one way of measuring, again, as you said, progress, for lack of a better word.
Yeah. Rupa, what is the one thing of that would be indicative of progress on the path if one were to look at it like that?
For me, it is more of being myself for my sake. The authenticity in me being me is of the highest priority for me. And that truly, because we're born a certain way to live that way. So if you're going to be hiding behind masks and trying to be somebody else, which you're not, because that's the good thing to do or the right thing to do or the prescribed thing to do by your faith or so on and so forth, then you're never yourself. And if you're never yourself, I don't think you can go anywhere meaningful. So for me, the more you're connected with yourself and being your true honest self, that takes the precedence, and that is more indicative of you being on a positive journey.
Wonderful. I have many questions, but I think we'll be very near to an hour or 45 minutes of this chat, and a lot of sure things have come up in a chat about being unsure. To me, it is the value systems of being kind to everyone, because everybody is as human as we are, including the spiritual gurus that we look up to or the idols we've looked up to over the years. The beauty of chats like these, even though whenever somebody speaks of silence, I keep thinking, oh man, when can we have silent podcasts? But while that is some time away, if something like this ever comes up, uh, these kind of discussions help me uh, realize words can be used for meaningful ends. Uh, People can sit and contemplate and listen to something like this and spend time and frame their own ways of looking at life, uh, which help them be more kinder, more honest, more authentic, more happier. Like uh, one of the criteria that I sometimes look at, sometimes because I am as unsure as anybody, is that are you happier? And by happier, I do not mean that exciting kind of joy, but it's more a calm, peaceful, just a
Peaceful.
sense of being where you are, and which kind of combines both the answers you've given in terms of being, just be yourself or be at peace with who you are. Uh, and study yourself. Obviously, the journey is a longer one than what we are talking about right now, but and that's another day's story, I guess. Thank you for this experiment today, and it's been a lovely chat. And I shall see you soon, and hopefully we'll start getting more people joining this chat and see if we can gain some gold out of these kind of discussions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Pankaj.
Surendra. Thank you, Rupa.